to the Covered Podcast. I'm your host, Mya-Karren, and on the show, we discuss women and how we are showing up in the world. Today's guest is Priscilla. She is the co founder of Going Beyond Ministries. She is an author, Bible teacher, and actress. Through her ministry, she seeks to help women know Christ and be confident in their God given identity. Priscilla is an entrepreneur, a wife, a mother, and a woman of faith. Please welcome Priscilla.
Hello, it's good to be here.
Thank you so much for having this conversation. I love to talk about women and how they come to their natural hair. It is always a journey, but yours is very unique. So let's go ahead and get right into it. And let's start from the beginning. Growing up, how were you wearing your hair and who was doing it?
Well, like most little Black girls, my mama and my aunties were doing it. And I had a lot of thick hair and I was tender-headed. So I don't think I made it very easy for them to do my hair. But it was a whole situation, the comb out process, the washing, the conditioning. Probably when I got to around 8 or 9, that's when mom let me press my hair every now and then.
Ah,
So mostly it was pigtails, but then around 8 or 9 for special occasions, she'd pull out the hot comb. It would be on the stove. And then she would press my hair. And I felt like a big girl when she allowed me to do that. Went to the hair salon every now and then, but that wasn't really a thing. It was really
okay.
mom's and auntie doing the hair. And then at 13, sort of our rites of passage into teenagehood was that we could get a relaxer at
Yes.
13 years old.
Yes. Okay. So when you were 13, because I've heard your story and I just wanted to talk to you, you said, and I'm going to paraphrase, but you said that nobody couldn't tell you anything and you were very confident. So when you were 13, at this point, were you doing your hair?
I would say, when once your hair is relaxed, it becomes much more manageable, at least for me with the amount of hair I had. It was much more manageable. So I was doing it in a light sense. I would
Okay.
wash it every now and then, be able to comb it out and try to, use some heating utensils to curl it and stuff like that. But I probably was doing more damage than good. Especially with the curling iron and stuff like that. So I probably had no business really trying to do it.
Well, I know for me, I was introduced to the flat iron in college because I went natural as well. But in high school, it was the curling iron. The curling iron and I were best friends. It was an everyday occurrence. I don't care if I had done it the day before. I don't care if it was an everyday occurrence. And like you said, I was doing more damage than more benefit. So
Hmm.
within your friend group, was everybody relaxed?
Everybody. So this would have been, I was in high school from 90 to 93. I graduated in 93. So in the 90s,
Very common.
nobody was natural. It
Okay.
wasn't it wasn't a thing at all. Every Black woman's hair, Black girl's hair was relaxed.
Okay. All right. So that was your friend group. Now take us to 2000. This is the moment. You are 24. And I believe you said at this point you had been married for like a year. Take
One
us
year,
through
yeah.
your aha moment and when you were like, this is not right. Something has to change.
Yes. Well, when you have a relaxer, and I think most women can relate to this, there are always issues you're trying to solve. Somewhere there's breakage, somewhere there's something that doesn't seem to be flourishing on your head. And I remember this was one of those times I thought, oh, I need a protein treatment. We have all these solutions that we try to remedy all the issues happening. And at this particular point, I remember before I went to the hairstylist, I happened to have a doctor's appointment. And
Yes.
so at the doctor's appointment, I asked her about this little spot that was on one of these two sides right above my ears, or above my ear. There was like a quarter size spot where the hair was very short. And that's what seemed odd to me that made me want to ask a doctor about it, because I was like, it's not like my hair is broken off down here. It's more like there's a spot in here that just seems to be really thin. And I just want to figure out what that is. So I go to my doctor, who is still my doctor to this day. So I trust her. I have a relationship with her. But she's a Caucasian lady. So she
Yes.
doesn't have our texture hair and our issues with hair. And I will never forget her just taking a couple of strands of my hair from each side of my head, and she pulled them out of my scalp. And she looked at the hair really closely and she said, Priscilla, I can see the root of these two strands. What that tells me is that your root is strong and nothing is wrong with your hair the way it's growing out of your head. She said it's something that's happening after it's out of your head that is
Mm.
causing it to be weakened and thinned. So she looks at me with her innocent white lady self and she said, what are you doing to your hair? And I said, well, I'm getting a relaxer like every other Black girl is getting a relaxer. Like, what are you talking about? And she said, this is a chemical straightening process, right? And I said, yeah, it is. And she said, okay, I want you to stop doing that for 6 months and let's see. Girl, I remember looking back at her like, you have lost your entire mind because no Black women stop getting a relax 6 months. That is outrageous.
No, ma'am. No,
So
ma'am.
absolutely not. 6 weeks at the most. And that's pushing it. So I remember when I was leaving the doctor's office, I had no intention of doing what she just said. I mean,
Okay.
it didn't even cross my mind to be obedient to those prescriptions that she had given me for my hair. I was driving home from the doctor's appointment, not really thinking about it. And on the drive home, I had what I can only consider to be a very spiritual experience. There have been a handful of times in my life where the conversation I was having with God was so real, it was almost like he was sitting in the next seat. And I don't know why the Lord used this whole hair thing to be one of those times, but he did. On the way home, the conversation that I can only describe as the Holy Spirit having with me is, what is so wrapped up? How is your self-esteem so wrapped up in straight hair that even your doctor
Yes.
telling you that you're damaging yourself, you are not willing to stop damaging yourself just for an aesthetic? What
Yes.
does that say about your esteem and how attached it is, your identity, and how attached it is to straight hair? Because if I had an artery blockage and she said to me, you're going to have to stop eating A, B, and C to make sure that you don't have a heart attack. Well, I wouldn't have thought twice about that. I would have been obedient to the prescription to take care of my heart. So it was like the doctor was saying to me, you are damaging your body. Stop doing this to stop damaging your body. And I wasn't willing to do it. And I just remember God saying to me, your identity is too wrapped up in that straight hair that you are
Mm.
not willing to be healthy because you want a certain aesthetic. So I'm driving home having this whole sort of epiphany about my identity. I pulled off the freeway off of I-35 and Illinois exit here in Dallas, Texas, where there used to be one of the few African-American small bookstores that was here at the time called Joe Kay's. I walked into Joe Kay's, and on the back shelf in the back corner, because remember, this is at the time 99, 2000, there were 4 books they had on Black hair care, natural hair care, only 4. Now the market is inundated. You can find so many resources. At the time, there were 4. And I remember taking those. I still have them to this day, 25 years later. I bought all 4. And then I took those 4 in the car with me, went directly to my parents' house. And at my parents' house, I pulled out photo albums and I started looking at these photo albums of me when I was 8, 9, and 10 years old. And I looked at these huge plaits with those little bobble
Bobbles.
things that your
Yes.
your
We
mom would
all
put at
had
the end that
those.
would make your ponytail
Yeah.
swing. I'm looking at my hair with these big plaits, and these plaits are coming out of the same part of my hair that feels thin and wispy and
Mm.
sort of weak and fragile. And I'm looking at myself in this picture and I'm going, so I have the potential to grow healthy hair. What am I doing to damage it, and how can I stop it? So between the epiphany I had on the drive home and then seeing my hair back when I was 10 years old and realizing that I have the potential to have healthy, thick hair, it was like a light bulb, and I was done. I read those books cover to cover because I hadn't seen my natural hair or messed with it for years at that point. So I didn't even know what to expect. And that was the last time I ever had a relaxer. And I was determined. All I can say, it was like a light bulb went off where I am not going to choose to be unhealthy. In my case, and I'm not saying that it has the same effect on everyone in the same way.
Right.
I'm saying in my case, I was damaging myself and I was refusing to take one more day of damaging myself in order to have a certain aesthetic. And so that was the last time I had a relaxer. That was in 1999 or 2000.
My goodness. I love that part. Now, let's get into a little bit of the journey because and I'm going to paraphrase because I don't want to say something that I may have misunderstood incorrectly.
Okay.
You've been married for a year, and what is this journey like? Because I remember
Yeah.
you talked about Natural 85. Did you hop on YouTube University? Was it a struggle? Because you also talked about your husband. I
Yes.
remember you
Yes.
saying that y'all had been married for a year.
Uh-huh.
You told him you were going for a trim or for like a little touch up, and you did a big chop, Priscilla. So when you say a big chop, because big chop means different things to different people. Myself,
Mhm.
I cut my hair when it got here. I knew that at my point in my life, I was not going to be able to big chop. So when you say a big chop, how short are we talking? And what was your husband's reaction?
Girl. Okay. It was a whole situation.
Break it down
Poor
for us.
thing. If I could go back, I would have done it differently because that's a little it's a little jarring when you've just gotten married and you need to kind of ease in and consider your spouse in matters like this because for in my case I'm married to a black man. For black men, the hair matters.
It does.
It
It
matters.
does. It does.
So basically I went the first 4 months or 5 months after seeing my doctor. I wasn't getting a retouch. So
Okay.
we all know what happens. You've got this new growth that is growing in. It is attached to your chemically processed hair, and the connection of those two things do not go well.
At all.
The fragile processed hair just starts breaking off. So it was shedding everywhere. I felt like I couldn't manage it. I couldn't do it. The new growth growing in because of the chemicals still attached to it. I mean, it sucks it dry. It is dry and it feels brittle. It feels hard. It just doesn't feel manageable. I couldn't style my hair. So I did get braids. I remember getting extensions, getting braids for a little while, but again, my goal was healthy. I didn't want
Yes.
to do anything that could potentially damage my hair or take away from the process of having healthy hair. So I was less concerned about the way it looked and more concerned about what's healthiest. And when I was seeing all that shedding and all that breaking, it was bothering me. So I thought, let me go to a hairstylist. I am gonna get it trimmed. I think in my mind, I had more new growth than I actually did. And when I got there in that chair, I was like, "Please take all this relaxer off. I can't do it." But I was only about 4 months in. So I remember she cut all that new growth off. I looked in the mirror and I thought, "Oh, I'm gonna be so in trouble when I get home." I remember that it was the length of about this first knuckle and a half. So when I pulled it, when I stretched it, it went to about right here.
Oh my
So when I
goodness.
say that I did a big chop, I mean I had a teeny weeny afro on my head. But it was, even though the aesthetic was something that probably wasn't my favorite, it's not, I've never had hair that short in my life. It was the most freeing thing. I
Yes.
remember getting in the shower that day, that water rushing over my head and my hair, and feeling my hair without the chemicals attached to it. It felt alive in my fingers. It felt healthy. I looked in the mirror afterwards and saw all these curls and coils, and I was like, oh my gosh, look at my hair. It didn't look anything like this before I got that relaxer cut off. So it was a good move in terms of feeling like I was heading in the right direction for the health of my hair, but it was very jarring to my husband. In hindsight, I should not have done something that blunt without really having a deep conversation with him first. I think if I would have known more, like it sounds to me from your story, that you knew a little bit more how to grow it out successfully. Um, I know more now about how to give advice to women who want to do styles that enable them to take care of both textures at the same time while they slowly trim.
Yes.
I probably would have done that in hindsight. But at the time, there were Yahoo groups. I remember that there were a few Black hair care groups on Yahoo groups that I could get into and have conversations with. But you remember in 2000, there was no Instagram. There
Right.
were no hair care feeds by and large of people showing you what to do. It was literally just those 4 books that I had and one Yahoo group. I think it was called Big Hair or Big Hair Don't Care or something like that. And you could talk with other women about it. But other than that, there was literally no other physical person that I knew that I could ask questions to figure out how to go about this process. So that just was the best thing for me to do in the moment, but it was very hard on my husband. And I promised him I would never do anything like that again to his poor self.
You did that meant after a year after a year.
Girl, after a year, it was terrible. Terrible.
So after the panic set in, was there a conversation from your husband? Was there acceptance? Was he going up? What after that set in, was the support there? And I'm asking because this can be a relationship definer. And what I mean by
Mhm.
that is I have a girlfriend who the individual that she was in a relationship with at the time gave her an ultimatum and basically said, either you get a relaxer, get a wig, or we can no longer be together. There was no support. There was no, after the panic set in, what happened?
Well, when you tell me about your friend that you just described, there are 2 different relationships we're talking about here. If she's in a relationship with someone she is not married to, that's one conversation.
Yes,
But when you're married to somebody, it's an entirely different conversation
they were married
because
and they are now
okay.
divorced.
Oh, wow. Okay. So that's a hard situation to be in because you would hope that your spouse would want you to do what's healthiest for you. In my case, it wasn't, again, about aesthetic wasn't my main goal. My goal was to be healthy. So even though it was a huge emotional hurdle and it did take some time, I remember for a while there, I was wearing a wig that was on a band, just the kind that you can sort of slide back in the front of your head, so that, the front of your hair is out, but then there's a band here and then there's hair. I wore that for a while. That was to just help my husband get through the first months of this huge shift that he did not know was going to happen and he wasn't prepared for. It's not an aesthetic that he preferred, me having a very short afro. So I wanted to be considerate of that. So it did take him some time. I am grateful that he did not give me an ultimatum, but I think part of that is because he knew we were both wanting the same thing, that my goal wasn't to keep my hair short. It probably would have been a whole nother set of conversations if I had intended to keep my hair the way it was, but he knew that I was intending to grow it back out. To he's not even necessarily a long hair guy. He enjoys me having more hair, and I wanted to be respectful of that because it's my husband. um and I appreciate that in return, meaning I could understand if there was something dramatic he wanted to do to his body or his appearance that he knew wasn't my preference. I would appreciate the same respect as spouses to one another. I would appreciate that same respect of him wanting to know how I felt about it and what would keep him as attractive as possible to me since our lives are tethered together that way in marriage. So for women that are dating, um, and we have this conversation, I always tell them to think very carefully then about what that is telling them about the person that they're going to potentially marry.
Yes.
Um, that you need to think about that. You need to think about what he is communicating to you, especially when your health is in the mix there. Um, and again, this could be about any part of our physical bodies. If there's something you need to change for health reasons, and your spouse is that determined to keep you in what pleases them aesthetically, but you're telling them it's painful for you, or it's not the best for you, or it's not feeding you, or it's not healthy for you, and that's less important to them than the way you look, that is something that you need to consider before you pledge your life to them. So again, to answer your question, it did take my husband some time, but gratefully, and when I say time, I mean some months. It wasn't just like he woke up 2 days later and he was like, okay, well, it'll be fine. No, it was a hard process for him. And gratefully over time, as he saw my hair flourishing and becoming healthier, which he knew was my goal, he was along for the ride.
Okay. What about friends and family? Was there any reaction? Was there any hesitation?
Of course, my dad, my grandfather, I remember them thinking I was nuts. They could not understand why I would cut off my hair, which to them seemed just fine. They couldn't understand why in the world I would do that. Even some of the women in my life, they were very affirming and very encouraging. But I found out in hindsight, that after I left their physical space, they were kind of looking at each other like, what is she doing? Why would she do this?
They
So
waited
you have
until
to
you
remember at
left.
the time, nobody was I was the only person that any of us knew that we're doing this. So it was just a jolt to everybody's system. I think people wanted to be affirming, but I also think that it was, not something that was aesthetically, I was gonna say pleasing, but not just that. It wasn't the norm. So they
Right.
didn't have any context of where to put my choice to cut all my hair off like that.
Okay. So at this point, had you already stepped into going beyond and had you already stepped into ministry?
That is a very good question. I would say to an extent, but
Okay.
very, I did not know the scope and the breadth of the ministry that we have now. It wasn't a full-time thing. It was something that every now and then I was teaching here and there little Bible studies, but it was not something that was the scope of our life in the way that it is now.
Okay. And the reason why I'm asking is because, and I've had this conversation with other women just stepping into maybe a conventional role, maybe a conservative career. There are some women who are natural going in. There are some women who are relaxed and then they go natural and they're in that same industry.
Mm,
But at the same time, though, for you, you didn't know because you didn't know what going beyond was going to be. So I don't know if you were thinking maybe further into the future. Was there any hesitation going
no,
natural? There was no hesitation, and you were not scared about what others were going to think or what your career could possibly turn into.
absolutely not.
Okay.
I was more concerned about having healthy
The
hair.
hell. Okay.
Yes, I was determined. So it did not occur to me. It didn't even occur to me that there could be, at the time, I went to school for broadcast journalism. So my goal, I didn't know ministry would be what I would do. I thought I was going to be a news anchor broadcaster. That was my goal.
Okay.
So at the time, I wasn't even concerned about that. I just thought I will get a job where I'm supposed to get a job with the kind of hair that I'm supposed to have. I remember thinking about the fact, not that I would ever have been Oprah Winfrey, but I remember when Oprah Winfrey started, I remember that crossing my mind when she was at her station in Baltimore, or wherever she started. I think it was Baltimore. I remember that seeing those video clips of Oprah Winfrey in those young stages, and she had an afro and she was trying to figure out what to do with her hair. So I remember thinking, there are spaces where even if people have to get over the hurdle of it, whether it's your talent or your skill or your ability or something else that they see, what won't get in the way is my hair. And if it does, then that's not a place that I need to be anyway. So I just was kind of independent enough to believe that I was on a journey with my hair and I was willing to take that journey, and whatever doors opened or closed because of it, honestly, I don't even think I considered it heavily enough to even say that it was a point of contention one way or the other with me. I was just determined to not let my hair continue on in that particular state.
Understood. So you were focused on the health. So since you
Yes.
have mentioned it and now you are where you are today, has there ever been an experience where someone was not willing to work with you, collaborate with you, or someone just flat out told you, listen, you have to do something with your hair? Had you ever had one of those experiences or any comments?
No.
Okay.
Not one. Not
Okay.
one. I remember the first book that I wrote because I was trying to think back to the dovetailing with your question of when our ministry started and my hair. The very first book I wrote, I am on the back cover and my hair is in an afro. It's when I started to really have a lot of fun with it because I was doing twist outs. I had enough hair where I could wash it. I don't even think I was blowing it out. I was just washing it, doing some big twists in it, letting it dry, taking those twists out. And to me, that big round twist out was the best. I love the volume of it. I love the fullness of it. And I am on the back cover of that book with one of those twist outs. And so for the past 26, 27 years, I have had natural hair. And there is not one instance that I can think of where someone was unwilling to work with me or questioned the state of my hair in any way. I remember that in high school. I remember being a cheerleader in high school, and because they wanted us all in uniform, what uniform meant for me was very different than the other young ladies who were white girls that were on the team, and what they wanted our hair, the
Yes.
bow they wanted on it, the ponytail they wanted on, what that required for me was very different. So I remember feeling that need to sort of conform in high school. But once I got into my 20s, and I was on my own trajectory. Honestly, the only thing that I can think of are positive feedbacks that have come my way through all the years. Even when I started doing film, which was a surprise of a lifetime for us. But I remember being in War Room, which you could have never told me in a million years I would ever be in a film. And when they asked me to be in War Room, I remember getting so much feedback once that movie came out from Black women who were so grateful to see me with my natural hair on a screen. And
Yes.
I thought, wow, isn't that something that at the time that would have been 15 years earlier that I went natural, that the Lord knew 15 years later I would be on a screen with all this natural hair in a twist out on my head, and that it would matter to the Black women that were sitting in a theater that I was able to do that, that movie and just portray us
Yes.
without feeling like I had to look a certain way that was more societally correct or politically correct in order to have a role like that. And so I was grateful that the Lord knew long time ago that it would be something that would be helpful to others.
I'm glad you mentioned War Room. I saw it, loved it. But I do
I
have
hope
a
so. It
question
was a
for you.
blessing.
So there, I think this was like 2016, 2017, or it could even be a couple of years ago. There is this conversation about, I'm gonna be try to be nice or just be PC. But when it comes to Black women and them being actresses, there is this conversation about why sometimes their hair may not look the best on set.
Hmm.
And what that article was basically saying is that they're not allowed to bring their entourage, and there might not be a hairstylist on set to care for Black hair, whether it's chemically straightened or whether it is relaxed. Is that something that you've experienced on the set of War Room? Were you not able to bring your entourage? Was there a hairstylist there that was not able to care for your hair? If you can share, whatever you can share.
That's a good question. I'm chuckling because probably contrary to popular belief, I do not have an entourage. I don't have stylists. I don't have, I have what every other Black woman has, which is a lady that does my hair that's done it for a long time here locally where I live. But I don't really have like a team like that that goes with me. So I wouldn't have taken a team with me anyway.
Okay.
I have heard what you have heard about women of color that are in the industry who have struggled with that through the years. Less now, I think,
Okay.
than 20 years ago because there are more people who are trained and skilled in taking care of natural hair and those sorts of things, or making wigs and extensions that actually mirror our hair and that don't look like something that's totally different than what we actually have on our heads. So the industry has changed so much. I'm a little bit outside of the industry in the sense that I don't live in Hollywood. I'm not a
Yes.
part of that world regularly. I've done a few films, but then I sort of come back to what is the regular rhythms of our life. So for me, my experience might be a little bit different than someone who works in that industry all the time.
Okay.
But I remember when we sat down with the two or three stylists that would be on the set for War Room, we had a whole conversation about this. I talked to two or three women they were considering hiring, and that was the question I wanted to ask them. How often have you done Black hair, natural hair, which is the different than relaxed hair, and what do we want this character to look like? And how are we going to make sure to keep that up over the course of filming in a way that will not damage my hair? So I was not interested in hot combs, curling irons, straightening, being a part of the character, because that would mean that every single day for 12 hours a day, regardless of the humidity in the air, regardless of what's happening in the environment, we're going to have to keep this hair looking that way. So I said, that's not going to work. Now we can do twists and we can do a twist out because that requires no heat. Or otherwise I'm going to have to wear a wig. And I would prefer not to. I'd prefer not to wear a wig and just go ahead and use my natural hair. But we're going to have to figure out a way to do that that does not damage my hair. And out of respect for people that are in this industry, oh my gosh, I can see why actresses would regularly choose to wear a wig or extensions when they're doing film,
Okay.
because you literally have to have the hair looking for symmetry's sake, you have to have the hair looking exactly the same. And to do that to your own hair every day for the 6 months you're filming would put a toll on your hair that would not be worth it. So I can definitely see
Absolutely.
why wigs and extensions are sometimes necessary in order to protect our own hair in those cases.
So you went for it. You went for it in the conversation even before filming, and I love that because you advocated for yourself. But
Oh,
so there
yeah.
was a whole conversation. I'm not doing this. I'm not doing that. What can you do? What is your experience? So they hired the two stylists. So I'm going to assume that Warman was not filmed in Texas. So you were not able to bring your stylist. Was it that you weren't
No.
able to, or you didn't want to?
I don't think I would have even known that that was an option. at the
Okay.
time. Number one, because my hairstylist is not in the industry. She just does
Okay.
hair for a living. I don't know that she would have been able to leave her family, her
Financially.
business,
Okay.
her other
Family.
customers to come do.
Okay.
There are people that are hairstylists that are cosmetologists, but they work in the industry. So they're constantly being hired out for months or weeks at a time as makeup artists or hairstylists. And that is what they do. That is different than a hairstylist that might work locally and has a shop. Um, and she's got to upkeep her business and be at home with her family. Those are two different groups of people from what I've understood. So it didn't even occur to me to ask the lady that does my hair here, are you willing to move out of state with me for 2 or 3 months while we film this? That didn't even occur to me because she has a whole business she's running with other clients.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move to motherhood. You are a boy mom. You have three boys, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
from the last photo I saw, it looks like they all are trying to do something with it. They're experimenting and they're growing it out. And I'm asking questions about your sons because I was talking to another young lady and she had an experience where her son got into the vehicle picking her up from school and she had her natural hair out. And he got in the car and he said, Mommy, don't ever come to school like this again. You embarrass me. I don't like your hair. When it comes to your sons, how are you raising them when it comes to natural hair, or what are their thoughts on natural hair?
My boys have not known anything other than their mother with natural hair.
Okay.
I my big chop experience was before they were born.
Okay.
So the shortest my hair has ever been, the most the hardest part of the journey, so to speak, was when they were really little. Um, they wouldn't even have really remembered that. If I show them pictures now, which every now and then I've shown them a picture of 25 years ago, and they've been like, "What?" They have no frame of reference for that process part. But what they do know are women with natural hair. They've only seen me with my own hair. And now, as you know, so many of us wear our natural hair. It's actually
Yes.
an anomaly now to see women with relaxers because everybody's wearing their own hair. So my boys and my nieces and my nephews, they're growing up an entirely different era where there is an appreciation not just for the hair that comes out of our head, but the styles we can create with them. They like braids, they like twists, they like when I have it out, but they don't mind when I've got it tucked up like this. I mean, they just don't know anything different. And so I think my boys will appreciate it. And I'm so happy about that. I'm so happy for the freedom that it has given, my nieces and nephews that are in their teenage years. They know that a relaxer is a possibility, but they also are okay with what's on their head. And
Yes.
I'm so grateful that they're growing up and going through high school, that very formative time, those years where you really are trying to find yourself and the pressure of peers and trying to fit in is so real. I'm so
Yes.
glad they're growing up in an affirming time for Black women where they can look around them at all the aunties and the women in the church and the teacher over there, and they can see it's okay to just have my own hair, and that is considered beautiful. I don't have to chemically alter it for it to be okay. So I think my boys are relaxed about it. I know they are with me. And I know that they find hair on Black girls' hair that they go to school with or they're in college with. They find that to be beautiful. The bigger, the better. So I'm like, hey, I hope that just absorbing their mother wearing her hair has helped to shape their appreciation for Black women and our natural experience.
Okay. Wonderful. Two more things, and then we can go ahead and wrap this wonderful
It's
conversation
okay.
up. So, the first thing is if you were to have a daughter, how would you raise her with her natural hair, and what would you tell her? How would you encourage her?
Man, I would just want her to know her worth. I would want her to know how specifically and carefully God crafted her.
Yes.
From the texture of her hair to the hue of her skin, um, to the height that she has, to the body structure that she's been given to work with, that all of it was intentional. So I feel like I would just be going out of my way, not only to affirm the uniquenesses of her physical structure, but also her internal structure, that your personality is intentional, your strengths and weaknesses, they're intentional, your passions and interests and the uniquenesses of those. Don't try to fit seamlessly in with everybody around you. You're supposed to be the uniqueness of you showing up in that space. So I'd want to affirm her in that. And I want to put her around other women that did the same thing, other aunties that would be saying the same thing to her. Oh my gosh, you look so beautiful like that. Or I like your style. It's so unique and different. And we like it. Keep going. Be affirmed in that. So I think if I had a daughter, I would do what I find myself doing with my nieces now. I have a gaggle of nieces. And man, when I see them with their little twist outs all over the place, I'm just like, you look fantastic. I love that. Just to help them hear voices around them saying that they look good as they are. I'm kind of getting on a little soapbox now.
Oh, no,
But
you're
even
fine.
when I see young women, and they don't feel the need to cover themselves up completely in their youth with the foundation and
Yes.
with heavy, heavy makeup and
Yes.
all the extras. I mean, enjoy it, have fun, wear the eyelashes, put your nails on, do it. But when you feel like it's a necessity for you to feel comfortable at
Yes.
14 or 15 years old, and you can't feel comfortable just going out there with your natural face, maybe a little bit of blush for fun, but you don't feel the need to cover yourself up, that you find that I'm beautiful as I am in my natural state. Man, when I see a young woman that is naturally herself and she's comfortable in her own skin, I want to affirm that. You don't have to look like the filtered perspective you're seeing on your Instagram feed to be beautiful. You can just be yourself and it's enough.
Absolutely. That's a soapbox on my channel that I talk about all the time. As you can see, I
I
love
bet.
thick hair. I will that is a
Yes. And you
soapbox that
look
I
spectacular.
love
You
that.
look like a whole
Thank you.
queen. You
Thank
look
you.
beautiful.
Because if it wasn't like this, it would be a mini twist. Last thing, this is kind of a hot
Okay.
topic. And I'm
Okay.
not sure if you're aware, but there is this debate, and I'm asking you because I've noticed you look flawless. Edges. I've
Oh,
noticed in your videos and photos that you do not lay your edges. Is there a reason why?
I do not. Let me go ahead and take this cap off. Let
Take
me
it
talk
out.
about
Let's
these.
see.
See these edges. Okay.
Fabulous.
So you're asking about,
The edges, yes. Because I mean, you look fabulous, but there is this huge debate right now about whether or not you are supposed to lay your edges, why you don't. There's this whole debate about it. And I'm asking you because I've noticed that you don't, but you still look fabulous. Is there a reason why you don't care? You don't, what's the reason?
first of all, let me ask you a question. You're saying that it's a debate, meaning people are having a contentious conversation about whether or not we as Black women are supposed to be laying our edges?
Yes, ma'am. I did a video and there was a comment. Now I'm going to paraphrase because someone put this under one of my videos where she was on a bus with middle school girls and one of the young ladies was being made fun of because her edges were not laid. Like this is like a real thing. Then I was reading an article where a woman who she said her her friend group was asking her why her edges were not laid whenever they would go out, so she felt the pressure to start laying. I mean, this is a real topic, Priscilla. Like this is
Mm-hmm.
real. So that's why I
Yes.
wanted to ask you. You look fabulous and you don't. Is there a reason why? Or you just weren't aware or you don't care?
No, I mean, I know edges are a big deal, but my reason is kind of similar to what I've already described to you about the reason I started this whole journey. Right now, as a 51-year-old woman, what I want is to have edges when I'm 60. This is my goal. My goal is less about the aesthetic. It is always more about what will help me to maintain health over the long haul. So I'm
Okay.
thinking about this with my entire body. Um, I'm kind of off topic, but I'll give you an example. I stopped jogging it's been about 7 years ago or so. I stopped jogging and started walking. I love jogging, but I started walking. And the reason why is because my doctor was looking at my knees and given my genetic with my mom's knees and my aunt's knees and my grandmother's knees. He was like, I feel like if you keep jogging, in 10 years, you might regret the pounding that you put on your knees, given your genetics and given what I'm seeing right now with your knees.
Okay.
So I shifted my preference of exercise to accommodate the reality that I want to have a body that is useful and healthy and I can utilize to its best capacity in my 60s and my 70s and my 80s. I have seen enough proof with women over time when we do the most to our hair. The
Yes.
most, the most in any capacity. So if we do the most with wigs, if we do the most with extensions, if we do the most with braids, if we even wear our hair in one way too many times, because then our hair is pulled in that direction over time and it wears in a certain direction. So with edges, if we're pasting them down all the time and it gets no rest from that, that wear over time causes thinning, whatever you're doing too much of. One of the reasons why I wear my hair in twists mostly is because then what that means is I'm not brushing it and combing it every day. I don't
Manipulation.
have to manipulate it every day. So a lot of the health I've seen with my hair is because I'm not putting heat in it all the time. I'm not washing it every 3 days. I'm not brushing through it and combing through it. And I'm not laying my edges down because I want to have edges in 10 years. That's the main reason.
There it
So
is.
I have had to get over the hurdle of aesthetic being the primary goal. It it matters to me, but it is not primary. I'm always thinking first, but what's going to be healthiest for me? When I first cut my hair off, for the first 5 years, I didn't put heat on it at all. For 5 years, I wore it in those little comb coils, or I started wearing twists when it got a little length onto it. I didn't prefer the look of comb coils. I didn't prefer the look of twists when it was short. But to me, aesthetic was not the goal. I wanted to do the best I could to accomplish healthy hair. I'm so glad that I did. So I would ask women to consider, what are you doing because you like it and actually you like the way it looks? And what are you doing actually because you're pressured to do it just because everybody else is doing it? But you can see, in the case of edges, maybe you can see that it's starting to thin you out. Or you can see that wearing that wig is taking its toll and it's starting to cause you to have a little thinness, but you're still doing it. And when you think
Yes.
about it, it's just because you're feeling pressured from everybody else. And I'm so sad about that young woman you just mentioned that's on that bus that's being made fun of because her edges aren't like everybody else's. Man, we got to give each other a break to do what's best for us, um, and to have the freedom to wear the wig if we want and not when we want, to lay our edges for that special occasion because we want to, but then on another day feel like I don't have to go through all that, and to bless each other, affirm each other so that we can feel free to do what's healthiest for us in the seasons of life that we're in. So that was a long answer, but I hope
No,
that was
I love
helpful.
the answer. And to your point, there are now women, even little girls, unfortunately, young women, young adults, older women who are on TikTok and Instagram talking about how their edges are gone. So, like I said,
Oh,
I
yeah.
I just have you ever laid your edges?
I have. Well, when you say that, I don't know if you're talking about all the baby hair down on the face, or if you're just talking about make sure that they're kind
I'm
of.
talking about this right here because I promise you, I did not know that people were actually like the actual hair, the grown up hairs. I promise. I know this is going to sound very slow, but I promise I did not know people were actually like taking this hair right here and combing it this way. I thought it was like
I didn't.
they're
This is
cutting it.
news to me.
I'm talking about the hairs that are this long, like right here, and these are 3-day old edges. So I don't even do that as well. But have you ever like the front
I
part?
I don't know if my version of that would be what you're describing. Like, I've
Okay.
taken products before, put them here
Yes.
and brushed down, and put a scarf over it while I'm
Yes.
getting dressed or overnight so that I can just have it looking a little bit more clean and fresh when I'm speaking somewhere. I got to do something on film or whatever. So I have done that, but I probably could use a lesson in edges.
Don't ask me.
And
I can't give you
yeah,
that lesson. Don't
it's just not
ask.
my part of my daily routine because it's not something that I want to s- I just don't want to put too much stress and pressure on any part of my hair because I just want it to be free and flourish.
I get it. Okay, let's move away from the edges. We got your answer. So we are coming to the end of our conversation, Priscilla. Do you, and all of the information will be down below for everything. Do you have anything coming up that you want my audience or the community to know about?
Well, thank you for asking. No, right now I am slowly writing a new book, but it won't be out for a
Okay.
very long time. But I will say we have a plethora of resources for women in particular to help you to be strong in your relationship with the Lord and strong in your identity, the way He's made you and your uniqueness. I've written some for young women and I've written some for grown women, and I'm hoping that they'll be a blessing.
Okay. All right. Thank you so much, Priscilla, for having this conversation with me. It has been a whole bunch of fun and very eye opening. I
Yes.
want to thank you and then to my community. I will see y'all next time. Bye.